Alright, I'm going to be giving a run through of pretty much everything that's coming out for Ashes of Outland that we know so far. Release date is April 7th, so look out for that. We've got a new class, Illidan the Demon Hunter, new keyword, Outcast, for Demon Hunters specifically. Cards gain a bonus effect when they're played as the left or rightmost card in your hand. So if you've just drawn it, rightmost card, or if you've held on to it since like turn 1, could be the leftmost card, not necessarily, but you get the idea. If it's the rightmost or the leftmost, you get a bonus effect with your card. Primes. These minions have a death rattle that shuffle a better version of them back into your deck. The prime version is very powerful. And Imprisoned Demons. When played, these minions will remain dormant after a set amount of turns. They'll unleash a powerful effect, and you'll be able to use them on the board. There's 135 new cards, including 15 Demon Hunter cards. Thanks for showing up, Kel'Thas. Everybody's gotten a free copy of Kel'Thas as of the 17th of March. So if you log in, you should be able to still steal that. And yeah, we'll just move straight into the list. Right, so these are the first few Demon Hunter cards. We've got Kayn Sunfury, charge, all friendly attacks ignore taunt. So this is the first case where you don't need silence to get over a taunt, or you don't have to kill it necessarily. So you can just play this, and all of your minions and yourself ignore taunt, so you can just punch them in the face 50,000 times. I think this is going to be an amazing card. Metamorphosis, swap your hero power to deal 5 damage, swaps after 2 turns, swap it back. I mean, I think it'll be good for a finisher, but I definitely don't think it's worth being a legendary card, although I can see why they would restrict it to 1, so I guess that does seem a bit fair. Pit Commander, taunt at the end of your turn, summon a demon from your deck. This could be pretty good, but at the same time there are other cards that do something very similar that cost a lot less than 9 mana, although it would be nice if you could play this and then at the end of your turn summon another version of Pit Commander. Be quite a lot of value to get. You wouldn't have to play, what was it? Yasharaj. You just need to play Pit Commander. Warglaives of Azzinoth. After attacking a minion, your hero may attack it again. So it's not quite the same as overkill. If you overkill a minion, you can attack again. You can just straight up attack again if you hit a minion first. So you can attack 3 minions and then hit face to break your weapon completely, or you could just hit 4 minions. It's completely up to you. Or if you're feeling tempo-ish, you could just keep hitting face and go with that. Alright. Furious Felfin. 2 mana battlecry. If your hero attacked this turn, gain 1 attack and rush, just like a basic minion to get you started off in the game, because these are all just for Demon Hunter, specifically to catch them up with the amount of other cards every other class has. I presume they'll be getting a boost in cards every new expansion after this. Skull of Duke Gul'dan. Draw 3 cards, Outcast, reduce their cost by 3. So if that's in the left or rightmost position of your hand, you could draw 3 cards and reduce all of their costs by 3, which is pretty dope. Same with Imprisoned Antaean. Dormant for 2 turns. When this awakens, deal 10 damage, randomly split among all enemies. So while this minion is dormant, no one can interact with it. It's like the darkness when you first play it and before your enemy's drawn the candles, right? Nobody can touch it. Nobody can remove it. It's just there. It can't be touched. So for 2 turns, this can't be touched. You have to waste 5 mana on it, and then wait 2 turns. But afterwards, when it awakens, deals 10 damage randomly split among all enemies. The only problem with these dormant cards is I think they're either going to take too long to come into effect, and so no one will ever use them, or they're really frickin' OP, but easily counterable, because you know exactly what's coming. You know for a fact in 2 turns that this is going to wake up, so you find a way to plan around getting 10 damage randomly split, or you play minions that might actually benefit from that, like the, I can't remember the max name, but the one where every time it takes damage it summons a 2/3 with taunt. That would be quite a counter there. Priestess Fury, at the end of your turn, deal 6 damage randomly split among all enemies. Simple enough. Coil Fang Warlord. Rush, Death Rattle, summon a 5/9 Warlord with Taunt. That's quite... I'm not sure how that would deal with a lot of things, but 9 attack with Rush seems pretty hefty, so I think it'll be good. 2 mana Spectral Sight. Draw a card, Outcast, draw another. So it'd be handy if you just drew this, and then you continue to draw even more, or if it was in left or rightmost position of your hand for Outcast. Fell Summoner, Death Rattle summon a random friendly demon from your hand. This is pretty useless considering you have a cheaper one, although I guess it is in Warlock, so this is alright for demon hunters, but it could be a lot less in cost because you can literally just wait a couple more turns and you'll be able to summon whatever demon you want from your hand. 1 mana Crimson Sigil Runner. Outcast, draw a card. Okay, that's pretty good. You've got decent card draw in these decks for Demon Hunter so far. Immolation Aura. Deal 1 damage to all minions twice. Fairly decent board AoE, yeah. Battlecry, discover a demon Nether Walker. Okay, that's fairly good, fairly useful. I wonder if that can discover demons from outside of your own class, or if it's only with it, because usually discover cards are internal, like class specific wise, so this will only be able to discover other demons, as in these 3. Yeah, I mean, so far, those 3. And then finally, Ashtongue, Battle Lord, Taunt Lifesteal, 3/5, fairly decent card, and it's a common, so that won't do too badly. So these are all the latest Demon Hunter cards to have been released to catch them up with all the other classes. Now we'll be moving on to the other class-specific cards. Alright, for Druid, we have Ash Spore Mishvin, legendary Druid card. Taunt, Death Rattle, shuffle Mishvin Prime into your deck. Actually, we'll get into the primes in a little bit, so I'll discuss that later. Ysil Windsinger. Ysil? I don't know. Your spells cost 1. Seems alright, I suppose. That's actually pretty broken if you can pull off some OP combos with it. What good Druid cards can you cast for 1 mana? Quite a few, actually, honestly, now that I'm thinking about it. You could cast Nourish, you could cast Starfall, Swipe. They're all really freaking good. Okay, so Ysil's not too bad. Marsh Hydra, Epic, Rush. After this attacks, add a random 8-cost minion to your hand. Seems pretty nice, and it's a beast. It's pretty good synergy. Random 8-cost minion. Seems pretty dope. It rolls on curve if you can play it properly. 5 mana Glowfly Swarm spell card. Summon a 2/2 Glowfly for each spell in your hand. Okay, it requires your hand has to be full of spells rather than minions, but not too bad. You only need, 7 other spells in your hand to fully maximize this, but I suspect even 3 or 4 spells in your hand will actually make this card pretty OP. Fungal Fortunes, 2 mana, draw 3 cards, discard any minions drawn. So it's basically just like Book of Spectre, but for Druid, and you discard the minions instead of discarding any spells. Ironbark, give a minion +1/+3, and Taunt costs 0 if you have at least 7 mana crystals. See, this is an interesting card. So they're basically telling you, alright, so it costs 2 mana, but if you're in the late game and you really need it without having to spend a lot, it'll cost 0 if you have at least 7 mana crystals, and with Druid, that is not a difficult feat to achieve. Summon a copy of a friendly minion, give that copy Taunt Germination. Okay, I like the sound of that. Summoning a copy of Massive Jade Idol would be quite nice, and giving it Taunt could protect you in the late game if you're basically just rushing to kill. Imprisoned Satyr, I don't know. Dormant for 2 turns. When this awakens, reduce the cost of a random minion in your hand by 5. That could be pretty good, but you can't tell, well, you can't exactly predict what card you're going to draw in 2 turns, so it could just draw you a 1-cost card on that turn it awakens, and then it just reduces it by 5, which is fairly useless, but you do have 2 turns to play all your crappy low-cost minions in hopes that it has a better chance of hitting a higher-cost minion. What have we got? Bog Beam, 3 mana. Deal 3 damage to a minion, costs 0 if you have at least 7 mana crystals. I'm not sure what this whole 7 mana crystals thing is, but I'm liking it. It's basically giving you, like, in the early game these are decent, right? But in the late game, these really won't deal with any sort of threat on the board, let's be honest. So they're giving you to them for free. Ooh. They're giving you them for free, so long as you have 7 mana crystals, which is fairly easy considering we've just got Overgrowth, gain 2 empty mana crystals at 4 mana. Wow, and to think we had that a lot cheaper before the nerfs. Alright, moving on to Hunter. We'll get to the primes later. Right, Beastmaster Leorox. Battlecry, summon 3 beasts from your hand. This I can see being broken AF, especially with all the copy beasts in your hand synergy. I can see a lot of the... oh, come on, how can I not remember this name? King Crush. I can imagine 3 King Crushes being summoned with this pretty much every time someone plays Hunter on YouTube. Guaranteed. That's just an instant deck made right there. Augmented Porcupine. Death Rattle. Deal this minion's attack damage randomly split among all enemies. So it's useful to buff this. If you don't have it buffed, it might not be so great, but I'm presuming because it's Hunter, you won't have much trouble buffing any of your beasts, giving it +3/+3, as well as what's the card? I'm not sure what it's called, but it gives it +3/+3 and shuffles 3 copies into your deck. Would be quite dope with Augmented Porcupine, dealing 5 damage, split around all enemies. Okay, Nagrand Slam. 10 mana spell. Summon 4 3/5 Clef Hoofs that attack random enemies. Now, if you even have any sort of beast buff on the board, like if you've got a freaking wolf that just gives +1 attack to the rest of your beefs, this is instantly 16 damage. If you've got 2 wolves, 20 damage. It is so amazing how quickly this can be improved if you just have a few simple cards on the board. That being said though, it does cost 10 mana, so you either have to reduce it if you want to play those beasts at the same time, or you're going to have to hope that they don't get killed. Right. Scrap Shot, 4 mana, deal 3 damage, give a random beast in your hand +3/+3. It's fairly decent, reminds me of the one that summons a wolf. Man, I should really learn up on the names of cards, but you get what I mean. Alright, 2 mana Pack Tactics, Secret. When a friendly minion is attacked, summon a 3/3 copy. This could be fairly handy if you are trying to play around it with things like Emperor Thorson, or just like effect over time things, just so that when they summon a 3/3 copy, it is quite devastating. If it's just a Battlecry minion, that's usually probably not that bad, but if it's a Death Rattle minion or a effect per turn minion, this can actually be quite handy if they can't kill both copies. Next we've got Mock Nathal Lion. Rush Battlecry. Choose a friendly minion, gain a copy of its Death Rattle. Now this will be quite nice, because if you could play some pretty dope Death Rattles, you can trigger it immediately. This is essentially 4 mana 5/2 trigger a Death Rattle, especially thanks to the rush part of it. But yeah, I can see some pretty interesting synergies going on with that. Scavenger's Ingenuity. Draw a beast, give it +3/+3. Very simple, very basic. Like the idea. I'm not sure how OP the +3/+3 would be for 2 mana, but yeah, we'll see about that. Imprisoned Felmore. Dormant for 2 turns. When this awakens, attack a random enemy. It's decent, I suppose, but especially for 2 mana, but you gotta make sure none of his minions have 4 attack. Otherwise it just kills itself when it wakes. Not necessarily a bad thing if you need to remove the board, but you know. And finally, Hellbore for Hunter. Death Rattle, give a random beast in your hand, +1/+1. Fairly decent. Alright, moving on to Mage. Skip over the prime. 1 mana legendary spell, Evocation. My bad. Fill your hand with random mage spells. At the end of your turn, discard them. So obviously this is intentionally made as a 1-cost legendary so that you can play it very late in the game, regardless of its early game mana cost, because they are going to be discarded at the end of your turn. So this is essentially a pretty handy board clear if your hand is empty and if you've only got Evocation, you know. You cast this, you get like 9 or even 8 other spells. One of them's probably a Flame Strike, which is what you're looking for. And you cast it, or even a Frost Nova, and then, or a Blizzard even. whatever you need. This is essentially a wish on turn 10, or if you have 10 mana, and you're looking for an answer. But you have to have a fairly empty hand if you want to make the most use out of it. Apex Smuggler. After you play a secret, discover a spell. Fairly decent, 2 mana card. Okay. Apexis, my bad. Apexis Blast. Deal 5 damage if your deck has no minions. Summon a random 5-cost minion. So Mage has been getting this no minions, encouraging lots of spells, and just in general, a spell-only build is encouraged in these few cards right here. But yeah, I'm not sure how well that'll work. Most of my Mage decks are pretty much spells, to be honest. But yeah, minion only, or no minions deck, so you can still run weapons, heroes, and spells. I think those are the only other cards. But yeah. Now we've got Imprisoned Overseer, or Observer, my bad. Dormant for 2 turns. When this awakens, deal 2 damage to all enemy minions. Pretty handy for 3 mana only, and when it awakens it actually has quite a powerful effect. 1 mana Font of Power. Discover a mage minion. If your deck has no minions, keep all 3. Once again, this is encouraging you to play a minionless mage deck, which is an interesting idea to play around with, but if you've got this, you can get at least 6 minions fairly easily. 7-8 for these two. Okay. Deep Freeze. 8 mana. Freeze an enemy. Summon 2 3/6 water elementals. Considering water elementals on their own are 4 mana, summoning 2 of them already gets you to 8, and there is a 0-cost freezing potion spell, so this is appropriately mana accosted, but it does seem like a bit of a waste, doesn't it? 8 mana just to summon 2 water elementals. I'm not sure, maybe that's just me. 2 mana Incanter's Flow. Reduce the cost of spells in your deck by 1. Seems pretty nice. Cast 2 of them. All of your spells officially cost 2 less, which isn't too bad, especially with Deep Freeze if you're running that. Star Scryer. Death Rattle, draw a spell. Seems fair. That's pretty good for if you want specific draws as opposed to just draw power in general. 3 mana Netherwind Portal. Secret, after your opponent casts a spell, summon a random 4-cost minion. I just love the artwork on this. It's just like, oh, you've done something dumb? I'm out of here. Alright, so we get 1 new secret so far with Mage. There might be more to come. I'm not actually sure if this is all the cards or not, but we're going through them. So, skip the prime. Lady Liadrin, appearing as a legendary minion instead of a hero portrait now. 7 mana. Battlecry, add a copy of each spell you've cast on friendly characters this game to your hand. So, for example, Sound the Bells. If you just play that 10 or 5 times or 10 times, depending on how lucky you get, Lady Liadrin will give you multiple copies of them without the echo, so you just get like 10 copies of them, and then you can just buff the crap out of Lady Liadrin. But I think the idea is that you actually use a few different individual spells to get what you want in the late game, so that you have at least a bit of more variety rather than just massive buffs that could be taken out with 1 card. Alright, Underlight Angling Rod, first weapon we've come across. After your hero attacks, add a random Murloc to your hand, encouraging Murloc Paladin even further. Now we're moving on to Librams. Librams is a class-specific sort of code word, I suppose. So Librams are just like their own little set thing. So this one costs 9 mana. Libram of Hope. Restore 8 health, summon an 8/8 Guardian with Taunt and Divine Shield. Seems pretty good, but for that mana cost, maybe not. But that's where this guy and this guy come in. So Aldor Truthseeker, 5 mana, Taunt, Battlecry. Reduce the cost of your Librams by 2 this game. So for the rest of the game, after you've played Aldor Truthseeker, all of your Libram cards, these 2 right here, will cost 2 less. So once you play them once, Libram of Wisdom is now free, Libram of Hope is now 7 mana. And same with Aldor Attendant. Battlecry reduced the cost of your Librams by 1 this game. Once again, you play her, Librams are reduced by 1, so if you play 2 of them, you get a total reduced cost of 8. Is that right? No, 6, my bad. So this minimum would cost 3 mana, and this would obviously cost 0. Alright, so Libram of Wisdom, speaking of. Give a minion +1/+1, and Death Rattle, add a Libram of Wisdom spell to your hand, so it's essentially like the Explorer's Hat from Hunter. How come I keep remembering the crap cards, but I can't remember basic things like King Crush? Anyway, 1 mana Imprisoned Sungil, dormant for 2 turns. When this awakens, summon 2 1/1 Murlocs. Can help out with the quest if you're still playing Wild. Other than that, I think it's just tempo for Murloc Paladins. And another Libram card right here, so these will get reduced by Aldor Attendant and Aldor Truthseeker. Libram of Justice, equip a 1/4 weapon, change the health of all enemy minions to 1. Now that's pretty good. It's essentially an equality that you can reduce by 6, so it can be a free equality with a 1/4 weapon. Which I think is quite dope, and it doesn't hit your minions, it's only enemy minions, which is even more of a bonus. Hand of Adal. Give a minion +2/+2, draw a card, nice handy little bit of tech, and we're moving on to Priest. It seems like every... oh no. I was going to say every class so far has had a legendary spell, but no, they just get 1 legendary card plus their prime. Alright. Priest, we'll skip the prime. Soul Mirror. Summon copies of enemy minions. They attack their copies. Okay. This will be another interesting card. This will be just like Hysteria, where you kind of have to, like, try and sort out if you can wipe their board or not, potentially. I imagine a lot of the time it'll be down to luck, especially if they have less attack than their health. But yeah, this could actually be more beneficial to the enemy, but if they do have more attack than health, then you'll be easily board clearing for Priest. If they have equal attack and health, that's also fine. It's only if they have less attack and more health, in which, if they're undamaged, they will just get copies, which is pretty handy, for them at least. But yeah, you'll have to play it in certain situations to make full use of it. Or if you just want to damage their whole board, which is pretty handy. Alright, Sethek, Veil Weaver. 2 mana, after you cast a spell on a minion, add a priest spell to your hand. Okay, it doesn't say random, which is odd, but add a priest spell to your hand, so I presume it is random. Alright, so that's actually fairly good tech in the early game. 7 mana, Skeletal Dragon. Taunt, at the end of your turn, add a dragon to your hand. That's actually quite nice. It's definitely aiming for the dragon synergy buff right there. Okay. Dragonmaw Overseer, in line with the dragon concept. At the end of your turn, give another friendly minion +2/+2. I was expecting that to say give a random friendly dragon +2/+2, but I guess not. It's still pretty good. Dragonmaw Sentinel. Battlecry, if you're holding a dragon, gain +1 attack and lifesteal. That actually seems quite nice, but it fits the... seems to fit quite well in with stats. 5 mana spell, Psyche Split. Give a minion +1/+2, summon a copy of it, which I think will be quite nice. This will be... okay, this is an interesting one. Imprisoned Homunculus, very similar to the Demon regular Homunculus, but it's 1 mana, 2/5, dormant for 2 turns, and it just has Taunt, so nothing special. 1 mana spell card, Renew. Restore 3 health, discover a spell. That's going to be quite handy. I guarantee a lot of priests will be running this card just to discover the spell. Honestly, the restore 3 health is just kind of like a little bonus. 3 mana spell, Apotheosis. Give a minion +2/+3 and lifesteal. Okay, I could see that getting played quite a bit, but you'll have to make room, because Priest already has quite a few good cards that they may not want to swap out for that. Ooh, finally onto Rogue. Class that I actually vibe with quite a lot. Alright, skip the prime. Shadow Jeweler Hanar. After you play a secret, discover a secret from a different class. Now that is going to be quite interesting, because you could be stealing like things like Ice Block if you're playing Wild, or any of the new secrets they've added in so far with Mage or Hunter. I think this will be quite nice, and it's quite beefy, so you'll be able to hold on to it, especially for 2 mana. Okay, I'm liking it so far, wouldn't mind getting that. Greyheart Sage, 3 mana, Battlecry. If you control a stealth minion, draw 2 cards. Pretty handy. Kind of forces you to put stealth minions in your deck though, which aren't always the best, but you can just put in the Stealthed Assassin, the 2 mana 1/1 stealth and poison, which would be pretty nice to play with this. At 5 mana, draw 2 cards. Okay, moving on to Bamboozle, a rogue secret. When one of your minions is attacked, transform it into a random one that costs 3 more. Holy crap, that's actually really good. Damn. Okay, so if you have like a 3-cost minion, just like I don't know, not Life Drinker. Cold Light Oracle, right? I know it's in Wild, but just as an example, if you have Cold Light Oracle out, someone attacks it, it could essentially turn into a Leroy Jenkins. But okay, so when one of your minions is attacked, so the attack still goes through on the minion that they're aiming for, I presume, unless attacked means, I'm not quite sure, but I'll have to give it a test run when the cards get released on April 7th. But to me, it seems like the minion gets attacked, and then if it survives, it transforms into a random one that costs 3 more. Or when one of your minions is like targeted for an attack, it'll get transformed into one that costs 3 more and potentially survive the damage that otherwise might have killed it. Alright, another secret for Rogue, Ambush. Secret: after your opponent plays a minion, summon a 2/3 ambusher with poisonous. It's fairly good. They could just kill it outright, but it can surprise a lot of people when a poisonous minion shows up abruptly, so could be quite handy to run. Alright, Blackjack Stunner. Battlecry. If you control a secret, return a minion to its owner's hand. It costs 2 more. Now, obviously, Rogue is getting a bit more secret synergy this time around. More than 3 secrets is pretty nice. Now you've got 5 to choose from, which also throws off your opponent even more because they don't know what it could be. With Blackjack Stunner, main thing to notice is if you control a secret, return a minion to its owner's hand, it costs 2 more. To its owner's hand, which means that you can in fact target one of your own minions, although it will cost 2 more. So if you've already used both your Shadow Steps, but you could really use another go at Life Drinker, Blackjack Stunner is potentially useful to you, but it will cost quite a bit if you haven't got a secret on board. 2 mana for the secret, 1 mana for the stunner, return, I don't know, Life Drinker back to your hand, and then it costs 5 mana, so you basically have an 8 mana turn in that scenario at the very least. But you can just return a minion back to your opponent's hand, which is essentially like a freezing trap from Hunter, and it costs 2 more, so you could in fact nail this with quite a few good cards. If your opponent plays a 9 or 10 cost card, you can return it to their hand, making it cost 2 more, making it either 11 or 12, and thus unplayable unless they can somehow reduce the cost. So I think that'll be quite good if you're versing, let's say, I don't know, Cthulhu in Wild, or like I don't know, something else like Nefarian gets dropped, or Dragon Queen Alexstrasza would be alright, but I think giving it back to them for 10 mana kinda sucks, because they can still play it, and they get another go at 2 free dragons for 0. Alright, Ashtongue Slayer. Battlecry, give a stealth minion +3 attack and immune this turn. Pretty handy if you're summoning anything with rush or charge, or if it's just been on the turn for long enough and it's quite hard removal. I think this will be played quite a bit. 7 mana Cursed Vagrant. Death Rattle, summon a 7/5 Shadow with stealth. I want to see what that Shadow looks like, because this guy looks very, very sad, and I feel horrible for him already. Aw, poor guy. And another secret. Holy crap, so now we've got, what, 6 secrets for Rogue? We've got quite a bit of variety here, although you never know. We'll still see some of the old ones, I'm sure. Dirty Tricks, secret. After your opponent casts a spell, draw 2 cards. Pretty handy, although you do have to rely on your opponent casting a spell for it to work out. And they could, in fact, use it to their advantage if they work out that it is Dirty Tricks, in that they could just fill up your hand and then make you draw 2 more by casting a spell purposefully. And finally, we have a 1-mana Spy Mistress. Stealth, 3 attack, 1 health. Fairly simple. I don't know how often this will get played. Alright, moving on to Shaman, the Lurker Below. Deal 3 damage to an enemy minion. If it dies, repeat this on an adjacent minion. So just like in the Battlegrounds when you have that dragon that can have overkill, deal 3 damage to the leftmost minion. Essentially this is the same concept, except you can obviously choose the minion, but most likely you'd want to pick either the leftmost or rightmost minion so that the adjacent damage can only go one way, and hopefully will repeatedly just wipe boards. So this is essentially just a 6 mana, deal 3 to all enemy minions, which I think is fairly good, plus you get a 6/3 with it, and yeah, I think that'll be quite good. I'm not sure if it's worth being legendary though, although yeah, I can see it. Alright. So, 5 mana Bog Spine Knuckles Weapon. After your hero attacks, transform your minions into random ones that cost 1 more. So this is all of your minions, not just a random minion that you have, or one of the minions that you target. It's all of your minions into 1 more. So it'll be useful to be filling up your board with things like Desert Hare and that duplicating guy. Oh, I can't remember what his name is, but his stupid intro is Seeing Triple. Alright, and then we've got 5 mana Shattered Rumbler. Battlecry, if you cast a spell last turn, deal 2 damage to all other minions. Fairly nice. You have to cast a spell the turn before, which isn't too horrible, but can require a bit of fumbling. All other minions, though, which means it will target your minions as well, except for Shattered Rumbler. But can be decent removal. Bogstrock Clacker. What a name. Battlefry. Transform adjacent minions into random ones that cost 1 more. It's fairly useful. Still going on to the transforming effect for Shaman, I see. 5 mana Torrent spell. Deal 8 damage to a minion. Costs 3 less if you cast the spell last turn. Okay, so it looks like Shamans are being encouraged to cast more spells, and they appear to be avoiding the overload as much this expansion. But yeah, seems pretty nice. 8 damage to a minion. Can remove a Lich King pretty easily, and you don't even need to overload. And it can cost 3 less. I think that's what they're trying to go for here with Shaman. They're not aiming to overload you, they're just saying like, okay, this is already like quite expensive, but you can reduce the cost instead. So instead of overloading you for next turn, they're saying if you've done a prerequisite, you can unoverload this. So essentially this would be a regular 2 mana, overload 3 next turn. But I think they're switching it up so that you just have to plan out your moves a bit more. But these will be quite good to replace the overloads, because if they're casting spells that can be cost reduced, then you can just like cast Torrent, and then next turn cast another Torrent, and then next turn, I don't know, cast something else. But yeah, so it's a bit more synergy, and I do like the fact that it doesn't slow you down over your next turn. Okay, Vivid Spores. Give your minions Death Rattle, resummon this minion. That will be quite strong if you can build up a board really quickly and have them be quite beefy. Unless, of course, you're versing Priest, in which case you will all be silenced and it won't matter whatsoever. Right. 3 mana Totem Reflection. Give a minion +2/+2. If it's a totem, summon a copy of it. I presume this is happening in that order, so you'd give it +2/+2 and then you summon a copy of the buff totem, which will be pretty nice, especially because you don't just have your regular hero power totems, you can get the other totems from the Shaman deck as well. Alright, 3 mana Marsh Spawn Elemental. Battlecry, if you cast a spell last turn, discover a spell. Fairly simple, fairly straightforward, lovely common card to have. I imagine Shamans will be enjoying that quite a lot. 3 mana Serpent Shrine Portal. Deal 3 damage to a random 3 cost minion? What? Oh. Wow, I really had a stroke then, and I was like, what kind of fucking card is this? Deal 3 damage, full stop. Summon a random 3 cost minion, overload 1. Deal 3 damage to a random Wow. Okay, ignore my English. It's probably best and safer if you just read the card there. That's what it does. It seems alright. Overload's still in play, but obviously not as heavily as before. Alright, moving on to Warlock. Paladin the Breaker. Battlecry, destroy a minion. If drawn this turn, instead destroy all minions except this one. So essentially, its battlecry is to destroy a single minion, which is fairly good, unless you drew it this turn. If you drew it this turn and you play it, you destroy all minions except for Paladin, which is quite nice. It's kind of like the Outcast effect for Demon Hunter, but the Warlock way, which I think is quite handy. So if drawn this turn, okay, so you can draw into this and then play it. You don't have to just like get it off your first starting draw. You can like Cold Light Oracle, or you can even plot twist into this, which would be quite nice as a fast way to get removal, especially with, actually, yeah, now that I think about it, plot twist would be pretty dope for this. If you have nothing good in your hand, just plot twist, you get Paladin, you can wipe their entire board fairly easily, although you will need 8 mana if you're aiming to plot twist for this. 1 mana Shadow Council. Replace your hand with random demons, give them +2/+2. I can imagine this being quite OP with the most recent legendary that increases your hand size to 12 and lets you draw 4 cards. I imagine this card will be played quite a bit, honestly, as more of a last resort kind of thing, but still, I think it's quite an interesting card, especially for 1 mana. Alright, 3 mana Dark Glare. After your hero takes damage, refresh 2 mana crystals. After your hero takes damage, refresh 2 mana crystals. Okay, this will be quite good actually, because it automatically has synergy with your hero power, and then any other card that deals damage to it, you get consistent mana crystal regaining, because it doesn't seem to have a limit. But yeah, I still have to have a look at the synergies that you could do with it. Obviously, Kobold Librarian and the Flame Imp will come to mind as a way to make mana back, as well as your hero power, but that kind of just doesn't make mana back, that just means your hero power costs 0. Alright, 4 mana The Dark Portal. Draw a minion. If you have at least 8 cards in your hand, it costs 5 less. Again, very interesting idea when you think about the expanding your hand limit size to 12, draw 4, which should be quite easy to achieve that 5 cost less effect. Alright, 8 mana Enhanced Dreadlord, Taunt Death Rattle. Summon a 5/5 Dreadlord with Lifesteal. Okay, I can see that being a pretty big wall, especially because both of them, well, oh no, only this one has Taunt, but it can summon a 5/5 Dreadlord with Lifesteal, which is pretty nice as a backup summon after a taunt gets knocked down, because usually you play taunts when you're getting defensive, so you want to protect your hero, and this is probably the best way to do it. Big taunt in the way, and then once it's gone, Lifesteal minion to make up for lacking in power, so to speak. Alright, Imprisoned Scrap Imp. Dormant for 2 turns. When this awakens, give all minions in your hand +2/+2. You can never make Hyreek the Bat viable. I'm sorry, Imprisoned Scrap Imp. You're the closest. You're very close to doing it. But just in general, not going to happen. Alright. 1 mana Unstable Fellbolt. Deal 3 damage to an enemy minion and a random friendly one. Okay, so you can choose the enemy minion you want to hurt, but you can't choose your friendly one that gets hurt. That one is random, so play this at your own risk. You could hit your own Leroy Jenkins and take you out. Hand of Gul'dan. When you play or discard this, draw 3 cards. Pretty good, just like the Fist of Jaraxxus. If you play it or discard it, you get an effect either way. So you can't really get rid of it. Sadly, burning cards would not activate this because it does not count as discarding. So this will be quite handy. I don't know if 6 mana is worth drawing 3 cards. I guess that's where this card comes in. 4 mana, Nightshade Matron. Rush, Battlecry, discard your highest cost card. So you could essentially play Nightshade Matron on turn 4, or when you get 4 mana, and then you discard Hand of Gul'dan, draw 3 cards, and you've got a 5/5 with Rush on board. And the discard effect, seemingly a bad one, actually benefits you greatly. Alright, Warrior. We've got Legendary Weapon, except it's not really. Bulwark of Azzinoth. When your hero... Bulwark? Yeah, okay. Whenever your hero would take damage, this loses 1 durability instead. So you essentially have Divine Shield for 4 durability. You've got Divine Shield on your face 4 times. So essentially, if you play Bulwark of Azzinoth, you are protected from 4 hits of damage. Sadly, that does not... you can't tell it when to activate, so you can't be just like, okay, don't activate when the 1 attack minion hits me, but activate when the 10 cost one does. So if they do have a bunch of 1 cost minions on the board and you're open to be attacked, Bulwark of Azzinoth is not that great. But late game, if you're versing Jade Druid or something and they've got 20/20s on the board, Bulwark of Azzinoth could save your life multiple times. Alright, 3 mana War Maul Challenger. Battlecry, choose an enemy minion, battle it to the death. This one is quite interesting, because we've never had a battle it to the death option, really. We've had things like Mass Hysteria and Jousts that summon minions and they fight each other, but usually it doesn't lead to death. Usually it just leads to either one winning or neither winning because they can't kill each other. But this one is essentially a way for you to kill a pretty big minion that has either low health or high health, depending on if you want to buff War Maul Challenger while it's in your hand. So you essentially just pick a minion. Obviously this one will involve quite a bit of calculations. For example, if you're versing a 5/2, you will both die. If you're versing something like a 10/1, you'll both die. If you're versing something like a 3/3, your card will almost die, but it will actually come out on top with 1/1 health. And yeah, so you really have to be calculating quite a bit with this one, but I like the concept behind it. It's interesting. Alright, 3 mana Blade Storm. Deal 1 damage to all minions. Repeat until 1 dies. So, unlike Defile, which can only repeat if something dies, Blade Storm will continuously happen until something dies. So you want to try and balance out all of your enemies' health totals and have them lower than yours, or at least some of your minions on the board, so that it's basically a board wipe if you can get all their health to be the same and all that whole total to be less than your side of the board would be ideal, but not necessarily something you need to aim for. Corsair Cache, or Cache. Cache? Is it Cache? I don't know. Draw a weapon, give it +1/+1. Already pretty good for Bulwark of Azzinoth. Give it +1 attack, which is kind of useless because you're using it for defense, but giving it another durability is quite handy. Blood Boil Brute. That's quite a mouthful. 7 mana. Rush costs 1 less for each damaged minion. So Warrior's getting back into the damaged minion techs. 5 mana Scrap Golem. Taunt, Death Rattle, gain armor equal to this minion's attack. It's an interesting Death Rattle, but so essentially it's getting you to buff that minion. Otherwise, when it dies, you just gain 4 armor on its own. 1 mana Sword and Board. Interesting. Deal 2 damage to a minion, gain 2 armor. Pretty handy early game card. Bone Chewer Raider, if there is a damaged minion, gain +1/+1 and rush. So it'll be a 4/4 with rush at best. Otherwise it's just a regular 3/3 that you can play for 3. And finally, 1 mana, Imprisoned Ganarg. Dormant for 2 turns. When this awakens, equip a 3/2 axe. Right, now we are into the neutral cards. Cards that everybody will be able to use in any deck. Kalthus Sunstrider, we've already talked about. Every third spell you cast each turn costs 0. And I'd like to add that by every third spell you cast this turn, or each turn, it means that you can cast a 1-cost spell, a 1-cost spell, and then a 10-cost spell for 0. And then you can cast another 1-cost spell, another 1-cost spell, and then another 10-cost for 0. So the effect will continuously keep going, so long as you have spells that are fairly cheap enough for you to keep rattling them out. Alright, so everybody gets this. If you log in right now, you should be awarded it just for showing up, which is quite handy, and a fairly good tech card for OTK decks. Alright, Terran Gorefiend. Battlecry, destroy all friendly minions. Death Rattle, resummon them with +1/+1. So essentially, you really want to be killing this off yourself. You do not want to be hoping or waiting for your opponent to kill this off, because chances are they'll have a silence and then you will have just killed all your minions for no reason. So you'll likely want to kill this off yourself, and preferably on the exact same turn that you played it, because number 1, all your friendly minions will be destroyed if this gets silenced or shuffled into your deck or returned back to your hand. And number 2, the Death Rattle, resummon them with +1/+1 is very necessary to pull off before your opponent gets a chance to even touch this card. Alright, 5 mana, Allah. Death Rattle, summon a 0/3 Ashes of Allah that resurrects this minion on your next turn. So it's a 7/3 elemental, and basically it just keeps coming back. That so long as it doesn't get silenced or shuffled or returned back to your hand. There's actually quite a few ways to get around this effect, but generally speaking, this will stay on the board for quite some time if they don't have a silence. And then we've got Maev Shadow Song. Battlecry, choose a minion, it goes dormant for 2 turns, 4 attack, 3 health. So this is essentially just a either a silence or a sap, just kind of a sort of light removal. Can be quite handy if you need to get rid of something big like that Draconoid Taunt, Taunt can't be targeted by spells or hero powers, 7/7 with Taunt. So you can just choose it to go dormant for 2 turns and then just attack over it and not really care. So Maev is yet another card that can just shove a Taunt out of play for a few turns. Be pretty nice to use on Katot Defender if your opponent's low on health. You can just be like, no heals for you for 2 turns, punch, 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 you're dead. Which I think will be quite nice. Holy shit, a 4/12/12. 4 mana 12/12. Alright, let's see how they can try and balance this. Magtheridon, dormant, obviously. Battlecry, summon 3 1/3 enemy warders. When they die, destroy all minions and awaken. This is quite dope. Although it does mean that you can't have minions on your side of the board because it will destroy all of them. But I can think of quite a few ways you could immediately just get this out. My main way being, what's his name? What's the furry boogie monster guy? I think he might be called Boogie Monster. What's he? Boogie Monster. Nope, not that one. I don't know what he's called. But, yeah. Essentially, you just play that. All 2 attack minions and lower die. And then this just immediately gets awakened. It will kill off your own minion, the Cookie Monster Bro. But, you will have a 12/12. and possibly wipe your opponent's board if it's that bad. I wonder though what happens if they've got a full board and you try and play this. Will it just summon immediately because the waters will... No, the waters won't even be summoned. So if your opponent has a full board or 5 cards on board, I don't think the waters will be summoned. So they might not even... you might not even be able to get Magtheridon out. Alright, it's an interesting one, to say the least. Then we've got Moarg, Artificer, 2 mana. All minions take double damage from spells, which would be quite handy if you play Moarg, Artificer. And then Fireball, Magtheridon is not a problem. Replicatotron, 4 mana. At the end of your turn, transform a neighbor into a copy of this. At the end of your turn is the biggest fuck up for this card ever. This is going to be OP as shit. Mainly because I presume that the copy keeps all the buffs and will also get this effect. So, if you just play this next to a few 1/1s, who cares about 1/1s, right? And then you play Ziliax on top of it. Actually, I think Ziliax is leaving soon. Maybe that's why they're throwing him in. But you get what I mean. Any mech that has magnetic, just throw it on top of Replicatotron, then turn a few 1/1s into it. Pretty dope. Alright, 5 mana Waste Warden, deal 3 damage to a minion, and all other minions of the same type. So essentially, deal 3 damage to a minion. If you choose Replicatotron, you will deal 3 damage to this one, and 3 damage to any other mechs. So that includes your own by the looks of it, because it doesn't say anything about your enemies. So it is a pretty good counter if they've just played Replicatotron on its own and haven't buffed it at all. So Waste Warden can directly deal with that. Scrapyard Colossus, 10 mana Taunt, Death Rattle, summon a 7/7 Fellcracked Colossus with Taunt. So basically Taunt, Death Rattle, summon itself, but with Taunt. No, it always had Taunt. So it's basically like a better version of Reborn where you get all your health back as well. Okay, Blistering Rot. At the end of your turn, summon a Rot with stats equal to this minion's. We've seen cards like that before, pretty pathetic. Although you can massively buff the shit out of this and actually make it really good. Infectious Spalling. After this damages a minion, turn it into an Infectious Spalling. This will be quite interesting to see, because this means you can just play this, and if you're Hunter, just give it Rush. Or if you're Warlock, you can just give it Rush. No, not Warlock. Warrior. You can just give it Rush with those little Rush booties, and just ram it into something big, and then bang, it just turns into a crappy 1/2 instead of a 12/12 that can't attack heroes. 8 mana Supreme Abyssal. It's a bloody common. 8 mana 12/12 demon, can't attack heroes. Unless, of course, you silence it. Yeah, just silence it. And then you've got an 8 cast 12/12 that can, in fact, attack heroes. This is going to be devastating in Silence Priest or any other type of silence-based deck. Can you imagine just seeing this being played and then shrugging it off like, it can't hit my face, just like that big Yeti boy. Can't attack heroes, I'll be fine. It can only attack minions, it'll kill self first time. And then all of a sudden the next turn it gets silenced, and then suddenly it can punch you in the face for 12. So definitely look out for that one. Do not silence it. Unless, of course, you're playing it, then by all means go for it. Imprisoned Vile Fiend, dormant for 2 turns, Rush Demon. So that's the neutral dormant card we've been given. 1 mana Guardian Org Merchant. Battlecry, deal 1 damage to a minion, give it Divine Shield. It's fairly interesting. Okay. Basically giving it an extra life after taking 1 damage, which seems fair. Felfin Navigator, Battlecry, give your other Murlocs +1/+1. Fairly handy. It's a Murloc itself, so it automatically has great synergy, especially if you get the legendary Shaman Murloc that makes all your Murlocs cost 1. Disguised Wanderer, not really much similar to Disguised Toast, but you know, the horns are definitely a resemblance. 4 mana, 3/3, Death Rattle, summon a 9/1 Inquisitor, which will be interesting to say the least on turn 4 or 5, having a 9/1 on the board. So basically you choose, well, actually this might be quite strong in Death Rattle Rogue. If they can trigger this Death Rattle quite a few times, and your opponent doesn't have enough removal for 1 health minions, could be quite devastating. Or if you just buff the Inquisitor somehow. Alright, Overconfident Orc, 3 mana, Taunt, while at full health, this has +2 attack. Okay, we've dabbled with this before, usually after it's been attacked and has damaged, it usually gets a buff instead, but this one is turning that on its head. 5 mana, Ruststeed Raider, Taunt, Rush, Battlecry, gain 4 attack this turn. Fairly good, you got a 5/8 with Taunt, and it gains Rush, much like the Armani Berserker? No, not like the Armani Berserker. The big ball thing with 5/7 Taunt, Rush. I don't know what it's called, but very similar to that, except it costs quite a bit less. Bone Chewer Brawler. 2 mana, Taunt, when this minion takes damage, gain +2 attack. Okay, fairly good, but again, I think it's in that category of not really going to get played. Bone Chewer Vanguard, 7 mana, Taunt, when this minion takes damage, gain +2 attack. Okay, so this one's like the Berserker, the Armani Berserker, or the Gurubashi Berserker. I think it's like the Gurubashi Berserker. I can't remember exactly which card that is, but I think it's the 2/7 that every time it takes damage gains +2 attack. So this is very similar, costs quite a bit more, doesn't cost 5. And moving on, we've got 6 mana, Dragonmaw Skystalker. Death Rattle, summon a 3/4 Dragon Rider. It's a dragon itself, so there's quite a bit of synergy there. It's okay. 4 mana, Burrowing Scorpid. Battlecry, deal 2 damage. If that kills the target, gain stealth. Pretty handy. You'd always be aiming to kill the target, because otherwise you could just get Burrowing Scorpid back. Okay. Soulbound Ashtongue. Whenever this minion takes damage, also deal that amount to your hero. And not that great. I'd much rather just play the Shield Bearer for 1 less attack, and that doesn't happen to me. And Shield Bearer is the same cost. 6 mana, Scavenging Shivara. Battlecry, deals 6 damage, randomly split among all other minions. Fairly decent that it doesn't hit itself, otherwise it could kill itself really easily. But it's all other minions, meaning your side of the board as well. 1 mana, Ethereal Org Merchant. Battlecry, deal 1 damage to a minion, give it spell damage +1. It's alright, I suppose. Good for those spell damage decks and potential OTKs. Excuse me, a lot of talking going on, so getting a bit dry mouth, so just have a drink. Right. Rustsworn Cultist. Battlecry, give your other minions Death Rattle, summon a 1/1 demon. Fairly good if you're running Soul Juggler, but who runs Soul Juggler outside of Battlegrounds? Not many people. 1 mana, Rocket Org Merchant. Battlecry, deal 1 damage to a minion and give it Rush. I'm noticing there's a lot of Org Merchant cards, giving things Divine Shield, Rush, and spell damage if you deal 1 damage to them. Seems like a pretty nice theme. You could actually make quite a beefy minion if you combined a few of these Org Merchant together. 2 mana, Rustsworn Initiate. Death Rattle, summon a 1/1 Imp caster with spell damage +1. It's fairly interesting, summoning something that may actually be worth more mana than it and stronger than it. Spell damage +1 goes a long way. Terror Guard Escapee. 3 mana, 3/7 Demon. Battlecry, summon 3 1/1 Huntresses for your opponent. That's quite interesting. It's just like the nice little raptors taunt, except no taunt, and you just get a 3/7 at 3 mana. It's pretty handy, to be honest with you. But essentially, presuming they're going to trade those in, is basically a 3 mana 3/4, which is decent, I suppose, and balanced, I suppose. Of course, though, you could just wipe out those 1/1s for your Huntress, or the Huntresses, fairly easily afterwards, in which case you get a 3/7 for a little bit more mana. 3 mana Frozen Shadow Weaver. Battlecry, freeze an enemy. Decent. And now here are the tokens. This is summoned by the new Rogue Secret, the Broken Ambusher. This is obviously summoned by the Allah. Oh, that's handy. It brings them up. Yeah, so this is summoned by the Secret. This is summoned by Allah. Hellfire Water. This is summoned by Magtheridon. This one is summoned by the Scrapyard Colossus. So this is just giving you an idea of what the tokens that will be summoned by other cards will be. Summoned by Coilfang Warlord. Summoned by Negrand Slam. It's Beast. Handy synergy. Pretty easy to overpower your opponent with. Summon a 2/2 Glowfly. These are the Glowflies. Summoned by Libram of Hope. The Ancient Guardian. Wow, that actually looks really nice. Huh. The Overdue Justice by Libram of Justice. And, of course, the Sungill Streamrunner. Alright, now we're moving on to... Okay, well, we've already done all the Demon Hunter class cards. Now we're moving on to the primes. Here we go. So, I brought up the primes earlier, but didn't go in depth with them because they were listed later on as their own separate thing. So primes are a new special legendary introduced for Ashes of Outlands for all the original 9 classes, not for Demon Hunter. They all work in the same way. They have a base version, which when killed returns as a stronger version to your deck, so long as it's not silenced, to be drawn again and played again. This upgraded prime versions have some awesome effects, as you can see. So Archspore Mishvin, obviously 3 mana 3/4, shuffle the prime into your deck. Taunt, choose one, summon a 9/9 fungal giant with Taunt or Rush, which is quite massive. So you've got 10 mana, 18 worth of stats, either with Taunt for protection or Rush for damage or just board presence in general. Alright, we've got Zixor Apex Predator, which I think will be my favourite prime so far. And it summons Zixor, or puts Zixor Prime in your deck. Draw it, play it for 8 mana, Rush, Battlecry, summon 3 copies of this minion. 3 copies means 4 in total. So you've got 16 worth of stats for an 8 cost minion. And the amount of buffs that you could give a beast in your hand for Hunter is quite devastating when you think about that card. Alright, Astromancer Solarian, spell damage +1, prime for Mage, Death Rattle, shuffle the prime in. And the prime is spell damage +1, Battlecry, cast 5 random Mage spells, targets enemies if possible. This means it's essentially half of a box of Yogg-Saron, but only good effects, presumably. I've heard that there are a couple cards here and there that can be quite bad for you to cast randomly, and if it targets enemies, but I'm sure that'll be found out day one. Karma, the pre-prime. I don't really know what to call these, because these aren't the primes, are they? They just summon the primes, or shuffle the primes. Stealth, Death Rattle, shuffle a Karma Prime into your deck. A Karma Prime, 6 mana 6/5, permanently stealthed, which means that it cannot be targeted by attacks or spells that target directly. It can still be hit by AoE, it can still be hit by random attacks, so beware for that. But in general, this is just a 6/5 that can do quite a bit of work if your opponent can't deal with it somehow. McGurgle. Shuffle McGurgle Prime into your deck. McGurgle Prime. This has got to be the most fun one so far. Divine Shield, Battlecry, summon 4 random Murlocs, give them Divine Shield. Now that can be quite devastating considering the quest reward for Paladin was an 8/8 Murloc. That fills your hand with Murlocs. Admittedly, you won't find that outside of Wild, but still, quite a few good Murlocs can be summoned by this. I presume it can even summon itself, because it is a Murloc, or it could even summon another McGurgle, or McGurgle. and get you another McGurgle Prime, which is quite the synergy, and yes, I do love saying that name. Canrithad Ebenlock, your Warlock Prime cards. Your demons cost 1 less, full stop, so that's just while it's on the board. And then 8 mana, Canrithad Prime. Battlecry, summon 3 friendly demons that died this game, so it's like a mini Death Knight for Warlock, which is fairly good. Unless, of course, you've played just the regular, what's his name? Something Walker. The 1/3 with Taunt. If you summon 3 of them, that would be quite awkward. Lady Vash. Spell damage +1. Oh, this is the new hero character for Shaman, I believe. So Lady Vash, shuffle Vash Prime into your deck, spell damage +1, 7 mana, spell damage +1 still. Battlecry, draw 3 spells, reduce their cost by 3. Fairly decent. I can see this actually being a bit of a pain, especially with the Shaman spells being, how do you put it, quite strong with their overload capabilities. Or just things like Hagatha's Scheme. 2 mana, deal a boatload of damage after a few turns to all minions on the board. Right, and then we've got the warrior class primes, 4 mana, Kargath Blade Fist, rush, Death Rattle, summon or shuffle Kargath Prime into your deck. Kargath Prime, rush, whenever this attacks and kills a minion, gain 10 armor. So this one's all about survivability. And of course, all of these primes have fairly good stat lines, the lowest one being Zixor Prime, but it does summon 3 other copies of itself, making it 16/16 in total. Reliquary of Souls, how could I have missed this? I must apologize, I missed the prime for Priest. Lifesteal, Death Rattle, Shaman, Reliquary Prime into your deck. 1 mana, 1/3. So it's fairly early on you can pull this off. Reliquary Prime, Taunt, Lifesteal, only you can target this with spells and hero powers, 6/8 minion. Okay, so all of these primes are quite devastating. I'm not sure if they've announced it yet, but I'm suspecting that we get at least one of these legendaries for free. I think it'll give us a random one for free at the start of the release. Don't quote me on that, but it's happened before. Like we get a free, like we've gotten free legendaries before, just like a random one at the start of a few expansions. I'm not sure if it's all of them, but yeah, we all got Kale's the Sas or whatever for free, and I suspect they do the same, but with these primes. Alright, so these imprisoned demons we've discussed, they wait around for 2 turns before awakening and doing something quite damaging. Pre-order stuff, not for me, but you can get bundle where you get 55 packs, you get the Serpentine back card back, which actually looks quite decent, but I'd never pay any real amount of money for it. Golden Legendary, random, obviously. And then the Mega Bundle, you get 90 cards, or 90 packs. Lady Vash is the hero. Serpentine card back, Golden Legendary, and a Tavern Pass, where you get 4 arena tickets and Battleground bonuses. I'm not sure what the Battleground bonuses are. I suspect it'll be just like this rotation of the Battlegrounds, where you have to buy a certain amount of Descent of Dragon packs, or a certain amount of Ashes of Outlands packs in this case, to get these bonuses. But if you buy the Mega Bundle, you'll just get them immediately. Okay, so yeah. Oh, it even gives you all the emotes for the character. Greetings, outsider. Impressive. My thanks to you. Stunning. Curses. I'll split you from stem to stern. I don't even know what that means, but that does sound quite threatening. Game board. Ooh, okay, so this is going to be the new Ashes of Outland game board, which is, it looks quite basic, to be quite honest with you, but I can't wait to fuck around during my opponent's turn, finding out what these do and how I can activate this robot and how I can blow up this mushroom and send this to the moon. Alright, that about covers everything. So, I know this has been a bit of a long video. I will try to include timestamps in the description to help you guys jump about fairly easily, but yeah, I think we'll just end it on this lovely little quote from a Hearthstone interview. The first thing we did, obviously, was we chose to have a new class and chose Illidan for that. So then we kind of had to do something that's loosely related to Illidan. And this was in response to what made the theme so compelling, what made it cool over other things you discussed. So he essentially just said, we wanted a new class, and we wanted Illidan, so then we kind of had to do something about that to actually introduce him. Alright, well, that has been my blunt ass review on all the new cards that'll be coming to Ashes of Outlands. So I'll try and include timestamps for bits and pieces for like Demon Hunter, Druid, all these other classes, and even tokens. But yeah, that's everything. So thanks for watching. Obviously you probably wouldn't have watched the whole way, but I hope it gave you some information that you were looking for regardless, and see you on the next one.